Now, the Liberal Democrats will pledge to rescue the health service when they launch their election manifesto later today. If they're elected, the party say they would also promise to boost spending on health, on social care, GPs and dentistry.
Well, let's speak now to Daisy Cooper, who is Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats. Morning to you. So this is the moment, isn't it? We've all been waiting to hear what the parties are all going to say in their manifesto. And today is your moment when you're going to tell us what can we expect to hear?
Well, our manifesto is a manifesto to save the NHS and social care. We hear time and again from people that they can't see a GP, they can't see a dentist, their child is waiting on a waiting list for mental health support, they can't get a care package for an older relative, and it just feels as though our health and care services have been driven into the ground under these Conservatives. So what we're saying is we have got a plan to rescue our NHS and social care. We want to pledge an additional £9 billion per year. And that money is not going to come from struggling families, it's going to come from billionaires and big banks.
OK, can you explain then, if it's going to come from billionaires and big banks, how long will it take you to start bringing in an extra £9 billion a year?
Well, for example, the Conservatives gave a tax cut to the big banks last year. And if there was, for example, some kind of emergency budget, you could introduce a measure to reverse that tax cut as soon as possible. So we'd want to do it as soon as possible. The other measure, which is to raise £5 billion from closing what is effectively a loophole in capital gains tax, again, that could be done quite quickly as well at the first possible fiscal event. So we wouldn't waste any time at all in trying to change these measures, because it is so vital that we get our NHS and social care back on their feet so that people can get the care that they need when they need it.
So you're saying as quickly as possible. How quickly?
Well, as I say, the first fiscal event of the next Parliament you could do as soon as possible. There could even be an emergency budget if you wanted to. The point we're trying to make is that we have a plan for saving our NHS and social care. We've pledged to invest an additional £9 billion, and we would introduce measures as soon as possible to get that £9 billion into the system.
I think that might raise £9 billion that quickly.
Yes, that's right. As I say, we would be looking to reverse the tax cuts that the Conservatives gave to the big banks last year, and we'd be looking to close the loophole in the capital gains tax system as well. And between those two measures, that would raise the £9 billion that would put our NHS and social care systems onto a firm footing. We're very clear that you can't save the NHS without fixing social care. And fundamentally, given that just how despondent so many people are about the state of NHS, about how long the waiting lists are, we really hope that this plan gives them hope for the future and hope that we can fix the NHS.
OK, let's talk about a little bit more than hope then, shall we? What practical details will people notice when they need to make an appointment with their doctor, or maybe when they're referred for an appointment with a specialist at a hospital? What are the practical changes that we might be able to see? Well, we want to boost GP numbers by 8,000, and what that would mean for somebody... Well, it would take 5 years to boost those numbers up by 8,000. But by doing that, we'd be able to give people a legal right to see their GP within 7 days. That's a really important measure. But not for another 5 years.
We want to fix the crisis in dentistry, because at the moment there are many parts of the country that are dental deserts. There are no dentists at all, and many people are resorting to pulling their own teeth out. So we would want to change that contract as quickly as possible so that we can provide urgent and emergency care.
How quickly, though?
Look, you'd need to renegotiate the contract with the dentists. But at the moment on dentistry, for example, there is something called flexible commissioning. You could work with the NHS England and with local health boards to increase the amount of flexible commissioning, and you could do that within a matter of months to actually broaden out the scope of people who can see a dentist as soon as possible. With dentistry as an example, we've got thousands of dentists who want to work for the NHS, but the NHS contract isn't working for them. The NHS budget for dentistry was underspent in the last financial year. So we have the dentists, we have the money, it just needs somebody competent to get on and fix that system so people can see a dentist when they need to.
You're talking about £9 billion, you're saying, from the changes that you are planning on making. Where will that be spent? Are we talking about England only, or are you talking about giving a proportion of that to devolved governments?
There would be an increase for the devolved governments as well, for sure. But what we're saying is that this amount of money, the $4 billion that we would get from reversing the tax cuts on the big banks, that would go towards free personal care in England, because it already exists in Scotland. So free personal care for every older adult and so disabled adult and older person. And it would also give a £2 increase on the minimum wage for carers. One of the big crises we have at the moment is that people who work in care often do so because it's a vocation for them. They love caring for other people, but because the salary doesn't pay, they often leave to either work maybe in an Amazon warehouse or in a supermarket, or might leave the country altogether. And we're saying what we want to do is invest in our domestic workforce by increasing that minimum wage by £2 to make sure that caring is a real vocation and a job that people can work in and get rewarded for.
Let's talk about caring for a moment, because that plan that you're talking about is to introduce free personal care for older or disabled people at home. Now, Age UK and the Royal College of Nursing have both said they support this plan, but they say there simply aren't the people to fulfil it. There aren't the people in the jobs.
Well, there are many people who have left the care sector because of the pay, the work and the conditions. It's a really sad fact that in this country we just don't value carers, and I think that is unforgivable. Liberal Democrats are saying that we do value carers, we do value the care sector. We want to attract people back into being carers because many people have left the sector, and we want to recruit more people. And part of our plan to do that is not only to provide free personal care, but to create a Royal College of Care Workers so that there is an organisation that can advocate for carers as the sector changes. So we've got detailed plans which we'll be setting out in our manifesto as to how we want to overhaul social care, and by doing so we'll enable people to live with the independence and dignity that they so desperately need, and at the same time, by fixing social care, we can also save the NHS.
We know, don't we, that polls are suggesting that a majority for the Lib Dems might be out of reach. Is your best hope a coalition government?
Ed Davey has been absolutely clear that our job in this election is to remove as many Conservative MPs as possible. We are in second place to the Conservatives in around 80 seats around the country, and where we are the key challengers, we'll be hoping to remove as many of those Conservative MPs come polling day.
And would you be willing to form a coalition with the Labour Party?
We are not thinking about anything that happens after the polling day. We have got a laser-like focus on polling day itself. And the reason for that is because we wouldn't take voters for granted. And right now, there are millions of people around the country who have not made up their minds as to how they're going to vote. And for those people who are still thinking about whether they might want to vote for the Liberal Democrats, what I want to say to them today is that our manifesto is a manifesto for saving our NHS and social care. We'll put the money in by taxing the billionaires and the big banks, not by taxing struggling families.
Daisy Cooper, Deputy Leader of the Lib Dems. Thank you.